Hi, early track participants. Just a quick overview of where we stand at this time and how to read the documents that I'm sending to you. So as always, you have a weekly update. So it's a longer text-based summary of where we stand. And then in addition, also you have the Excel file with performance records for each of your students. So again, a couple of words on how to read this file. It's sorted by professor's name, and then you have information on each of your students with respect to when they were added to the Xculture system, so basically welcomed on, placed on the team, team number, team size, and some other information. So you will see here that there are four parts of this, or three rather, parts of this file. So first, people who have been placed on the teams, and we have about 2,000 people currently on teams, right? Then you have a few students who tried the, took the test but didn't pass it, and we have about 49, if I remember correctly, people at this time. So yes, we have 42 students who attempted the test, but as you can see, the test score was very low, and so they did not qualify. Oh, there is one student who seems to have passed just now, so I'll add that student to the team. Okay, so but yes, generally students who failed, and we sent them a new invitation to complete the test, so they should be able to do it again. And then we have a bunch of students who have been added to the project either just now and they didn't have time to complete the test, or for whatever reason, maybe they dropped the course, or maybe they, lack the motivation. So until they complete the test, we will not be placing them on teams. And so we have a few of those, about 100 or so of those students. We may have, I believe, one more class where semester starts this week, so we will add a few more names to the list and invite those students, but otherwise the teams, the students are more or less in the system now. And so as of now, almost all of the teams have 5 or 6 students, and most of them look something like this. So we would have 1 or 2 US students, or maybe 1 from Canada, 1 from the US, usually 1 from India, and then other countries, UK. So some teams may have 2 students from India, some teams may have a different composition, like here you see these teams have 2 from the US, 1 from the UK, India, Guatemala, another Indian student, so things like that. Pretty much all of the teams would have either 5 or 6 students, and usually 4 countries, meaning that there will be sometimes 2 students from the US, sometimes 2 from India, and then 1 or 2 more countries, so students from other countries. Plus, again, some of the American students would be from the US, study in the US, but maybe, maybe originally from, like this one from Hungary, or this one from Norway, so also a very common occurrence. This week, the teams have to decide on the client organizations. All they need to do is just select one client organization. So when they go to the resource page for the project, they will see a list of companies, and they can choose any one. So they just click on the PDF file, and they can see the details and the task represented by each client, or basically history of the company, products, and what kind of help they need. All they need to do, just go through the list, see which one they like most, and select that one and report us. So all they do is just basically tell us this is the company we selected. This is the email that the students received. So basically here they have a link to the weekly progress survey, and then they have some information that, some teams have a new team member added today, that they can ask for coaching help, that they can attend webinars, and we already had a few, so they have the recordings, and then the list of the team members. In my case here, just made up names. The students actually see the real names of their students. One more note on freeloaders. Again, I'm very proud that we have dramatically reduced freeloading in Xculture teams. In the weekly letter, I even included a link to a paper that is currently almost accepted at the Journal of World Business. Hopefully we are nearing, so it's like round 4 R&R, and the reviewers have only minor concerns. But we actually conduct a lot of experiments, collect a lot of data, do a lot of interventions, and see how they work to reduce freeloading. And so, as I said, we even wrote a paper where we compare half a dozen of different interventions we have tried. And so over the years, we have dramatically reduced freeloading. So it used to be that each team on average had something like 1.5 freeloaders. We were able to cut it in half. So at this time, I believe the rate of freeloading is approximately 0.4 per team, meaning that on average, a team has like less than half of a freeloader, or in other words, approximately 1 in 3, maybe half, 1 in 2 teams have a team member who is not actively participating and is not meeting the expectations of the team. Now, this number is much better today than what it was a few years ago in XCulture, and also we found a bunch of papers that report similar statistics for other types of teams, corporate teams, other team-based projects in universities, and freeloaders happen all the time. Hardly any team goes without someone not doing their work. It doesn't matter if they're student or corporate teams, at least the studies report roughly the same statistics, and our rate is actually better than what we see in literature. So I'm happy that we do better than most. Yet we still see, as I said, most teams have sort of on average half a free rider, or 1 in 2 teams, 1 in 3 teams does have a team member who is not actively participating to the team's satisfaction, and that's bad. So you will hear some complaints from your students about that. Keep in mind that teams that do well will not talk to you, so they are happy, they don't need to complain. So the only complaints you will hear will be about things like that, and so it may create an impression that everybody is not doing well. That's not true. So most teams do very well. The few that don't, those will be the ones who will talk to you, and so that will create an impression that everything is going badly. But eventually you'll realize, no, most teams are happy, so we just have a few. But there will be still some, and it's not good. So we are trying to reduce the rate of freeloading as much as possible. The goal of XCulture is not to provide students with a sort of a trip to Disneyland. And so when problems happen, including with free writing, I do not see it as a problem. I see it as a realistic preview of what students sort of have prepared for them in the future. Because in the future, when they participate in teams, they will have freeloaders. So when they have one now, that's a nice, realistic preview, learning opportunity. They will learn what to expect and what to do with freeloaders on teams. So when it happens, it's not a problem, at least not from my perspective. And when my students complain, I always tell them that, well, I kind of feel sorry for you, but at the same time, I feel happy for you because you are learning. That's what all XCulture is about. And so XCulture is an exercise, not a test. So it's about the journey, not the destination. So when you encounter these problems, that's the whole purpose. And so you're learning here. But in any case, at the same time, I'm trying to reduce this problem. And so we are looking at students' performance records here. We are looking at readiness test results. We are looking at work experience. We are looking at all kinds of things. And so one thing we noticed is that the test score, while somewhat predictive of future performance, does not really identify future freeloaders. One thing that does is this column here. So this is the number of questions that students skipped when doing the readiness test. Like, for example, this student here, just one random individual. So she did get a passing grade on the test, but she also skipped 23 questions. Same thing here. This student skipped 25 questions. This student skipped also 23 questions. I mean, the grade is okay, but the student skipped quite a few questions. So we were back and forth. I consulted a few professors. Some said, do not let them participate if they skipped so many questions. They're not serious enough, not disciplined enough. Others said, well, they did get enough questions that were rated, scored correctly, so maybe we should place them on teams. Eventually, we decided to place them on teams, but I'm just letting you that I'm sending them, have not sent yet, but will send in a few minutes, a note saying that I am worried about them skipping so many questions. And basically, slacking is not good in XCulture. So if they will not connect with their team, if their team will complain about their performance and engagement, we will remove them from the project. I'll phrase it nicely. I don't want to don't want it to sound like a threat, but at the same time, I would like to signal to the students that it is not okay to not actively participate in the project. So we will monitor those students carefully, and so we have about 100 of them, and if problems indeed materialize, if they indeed will not participate actively, we may have to remove them from the project. So just so you know, and communicate please that information to your students. But all in all, everything seems to be going well. As I said, we have a few students who have not been placed on teams at this time, but once they pass the test, we will place them on teams. And so the next batch of students to be placed on teams will be on Monday, so they better be done by then. And yeah, other than that, everything seems to be going well. So far, satisfaction level seems to be high based on the survey that was due today, and I hope it will be a good semester. Oh, one more thing. We also looked at a bunch of other indicators that often come up when students and then consequently professors complain about freeloaders. So there are several attributes that are often blamed on freeloading. One is the level of studies. So professors, especially those who teach master's level courses, they think that undergraduates are not as diligent, not as dedicated, and that's not the case. We looked at it many times, and it's not the case. So in fact, we see a greater level of performance from undergraduate students, probably because master's students are older, many have jobs, families, and have less time. So it's not that they're not as smart, they just don't have much time. As well as the percentage of grade allocated to X-Culture. This one is tricky. Logically, it would make sense that if X-Culture accounts for a large portion of the course grade, like 50, 60, 70%, or in my own class, it's 100%, like X-Culture is the project, you would think that those students will work really, really hard. And then in courses where X-Culture accounts for only 20%, or we occasionally have professors who either don't tell us when we ask, or specifically tell us and ask for a permission to participate in X-Culture, even if X-Culture accounts for less than 20%. Usually we do not allow that, but sometimes, as I said, professors don't tell us, or sometimes the rules at their school do not allow that, and they say they promise students will do a good job, but they need to participate with students where team-based project cannot account for any grade. And we've done that math many times. In fact, let me show you the statistics right here. So here is the full records file from 2023 TB last semester. And so I'm going to take here the level of studies, the post-project peer evaluations, so the final set of peer evaluations, and the quality of the report. So that's the final team report. And here I have the percentage of the grade, like 0.20% for some, 25, 60%, and so on. And so when I put this, it wouldn't allow me, but I already extracted it into this file here. So I have level, average, peer evaluations, report quality, and grade. And so when I do correlation between how much X-Culture counts in the course, so grade and report, average quality of the report, as you see, the correlation is basically 0. So it's not 0.1, it's not 0.01, it's 0.006. So it's essentially 0, right? And then when I look at the correlation with peer evaluation, so basically how diligent, what team members tell about the students, again, it's not 0.1, it's 0.04. So it's extremely small. It explains like not even 1%, like nothing. So it's essentially perfect 0. In some semesters, it's even like slightly negative. So nothing. And then let me also do the analysis of these things by the level of study. So same thing, like for example, let's take a look by the level of studies, average peer evaluations. So not count, but value, average. So as you see, the average peer evaluation for master's students is, let me just get rid of these decimals. So as you see, the average peer evaluation for master's students is 3.91. For undergraduate, 3.96. So undergraduates, it's negligible difference, but undergraduates actually do a somewhat better job. executive MBAs, we had a couple of classes do slightly better, but again, I mean, we're talking about a difference of like 0.1, so 4.1 versus essentially 4.0. So if you do it like this. So we had a few students in the other cohort which didn't do very well, but again, those are rare, so I wouldn't pay too much attention to this. And academy, these are teenagers, so they are a little bit more problematic, but that's a whole separate track. But masters versus undergraduates, as you see, it's essentially indistinguishable. If anything, undergraduates actually do a better job. And then the same thing if I wanted to look at the quality of the report. I'm not sure if it can be directly compared because maybe professors are also tougher graders, but as you see, it's about the same. So it's like 5.4, 5.4, 5.4, 5.6. So executive MBAs do a slightly better job, but overall not a big difference. So if anything, in fact, academy students do, I mean, teenagers obviously write reports that are of somewhat lower quality, but that's not surprising, they're much younger. But undergraduates, masters, not a big difference. So when you hear that some of your team members, I mean, some of your students' team members are not participating because presumably they are younger, or the grade accounts for less in their course, X-Culture accounts for less in their course grade. No, there is no systemic difference. It's nearly perfect correlation. In fact, nearly perfect zero correlation. So those are not really factors. But as I said, one that seems to correlate is when students do not diligently complete the entire readiness test. Still very low predictor, low validity predictor, but there is something there, and so those will be the students that we will be paying extra careful attention to. All right.